Alright guys, so we've got an interesting watch in here from Sea-Gull. This is from their Natural series, and the one we're reviewing today is the Sea-Gull Polaris Sub Dial. This is only the second watch of theirs I've actually checked out on the channel. The previous one I'll leave a link to up in the top and also down in the description, but that was quite a few years back. So I thought it was about time I checked out another one, and this one looked pretty interesting as I say. So I'll quickly pop the watch to one side for a second, show you the packaging in passing. So it's a fairly simple box with the Sea-Gull branding on, not going to go into detail. And you'll also get this link removal tool in the box as well. And here is the watch. So I do really like this kind of textured wave dial. They do a few different colours as well. So this one I've got is the ocean blue, but they also do a rock grey, June yellow and lava red. So you should be able to find one that you do like if you do like this kind of textured dial. But before we get into any more detail, first of all let's go over the dimensions. So we've got a diameter of 40mm, thickness of 10.2, lug width of 20, and then the all important lug to lug. It's coming in at 47. When it comes to the weight on this supply bracelet, with all the links included, it's coming in at 125 grams, and then size for my 7-inch wrist, it's coming in at 116. So let's take a closer look at that now and talk about that in a bit more detail. So you can see we've got a 7-link bracelet, mixture of brushed and polished, and as you already know, it is push pins, which is why we've got that tool in the box. So we don't have any half links, and it is a butterfly clasp. But we'll get into that a bit later on when I show you on wrist. And then when it comes to the case back, you can see we've got a display case back on this, and obviously we've got a Sea-Gull movement in it, which we'll talk about in a bit. And it's a screw down case back, which helps with that 50-metre water resistance. And then we've got the usual kind of specs around the outside, stainless steel, the fact that it's Sea-Gull, and then the model actual number. And we'll be checking in a bit if that is actually sapphire on the back, as well as on the front. But now let's move on to the head of the watch. And as you saw from those dimensions, we've actually got a pretty thin case, coming in at only 10.2mm. So it's a fairly simply finished case, mainly brushed, just some little polished details, including that bezel. And then we've got a nice bit of curvature to those lugs as well, which helps it conform to wrist. When it comes to that crystal, you can see that's perfectly flat. And again, we'll be checking in a bit if that is sapphire. You can also see there we've got female end links, which is helping keep that lug to lug down as well. And they are nicely integrated. But now, let's get onto the star of the show, pun intended, and that is the dial. So we've got printed text with that Sea-Gull branding at the top, and then automatic just below that. When it comes to the indices, they're all applied, and they've actually got Lume in, so we'll be checking the Lume out in a bit too. When it comes to the hands, we've got nice proportions on them, and then obviously we've got that Subdial just above the 6, which has got a pretty interesting design on it, especially with that hand, and that's where this watch gets its name from. And that's why it looks like a star, because Polaris is more commonly known as the North Star. So you can see we've got that red tip on there, so you know which bit you're actually going to be using as the second hand. And now that we're zoomed in a bit more, you can also see we've got that different finishing on there, with the kind of concentric circles, and then that train track around the outside as well. It's definitely something a bit different, not something I've seen before, with that really unusual, as I say, star style hand. And then when it comes to the rest of the dial, we've got that chapter ring around the outside, with the minutes on. And then the only other text we've got on there is right at the bottom. You might have missed it before, it is actually in that chapter ring where it says China made. So I think they've done a really good job with the design overall. It's definitely something a bit different, pretty unique, and I think it's smart as well. I do really like that wave dial, and that unique sub dial just gives it something different. But now let's check whether we've got sapphire crystal on this or not, using the trusty diamond selector 2. So with the front one first, yep, that is sapphire. Now let's flick it over and check the back, and that is just mineral. Not all that surprising. It's only really when you get to the more expensive pieces that you will get sapphire front and back. Tend to have like more expensive micro brands and things like that. So now let's get onto that movement and talk about that. So as I said, obviously it's a Sea-Gull in-house movement as you've come to expect. But which one is it? So it's the ST17. So just got a push ball crown. So if we pop that out, we've just got the one position. No ghost date, but we also don't have hacking. So we've changed the time. Nice and smooth, no problem there. Pop it back in. Then we've got hand winding. It's a little bit noisy when it's hand winding, but it works just fine, no problems in terms of functionality. So, as I alluded to earlier, they do actually mention Lume in the listing, and it's also fairly obvious they've put Lume on the dial. But the question is it any good? With it being a dressier style watch, it's kind of unusual it's got any Lume at all. So what exactly are we working with here? So you can see we've got a little bit already, but let's charge it up, give it a proper chance. And there we go. So initially at least, it's actually looking pretty good. So it doesn't actually specify on the website what lume they use, but I'm assuming it's some kind of variant of C3 or something like that, because we've got that nice green colour. And initially at least, again, we've not got any patchiness or anything, although the hands do appear to be brighter than the indices. I'm just kind of disappointed though that they didn't put any lume on that second hand. If they're going to make a feature of it, try and put some lume on it, especially if it's supposed to be like a star. Having that fully lumed I think would have been pretty cool, and again, just would have made a feature of it. I think they really missed a trick with that. But as for the lume we have actually got, let's speed this up and see how long it lasts. So pretty quickly you can see those indices are starting to fade, and they're not fading evenly either. Some are still brighter than others, which isn't ideal. The hands are still slightly brighter, but it's all fading pretty quickly, so not very good lume to be honest. If it was up to you, which way would you be going? Would you be adding more lume, or just get rid of it altogether? You don't think it suits this kind of style of watch? As I said, given the name of the watch, I think you need to go all out with it, and just make a feature of that Subdial as well. But you're probably wondering now, how much is all this going to cost you? So I've actually got a discount code, so if you use the discount code HWR10, you'll get 10% off, and that's on this or any watch on their website. So including that discount, the price is coming in at $160, £130, €154. So yeah, it's not the cheapest of watches, especially when you compare it to other Chinese brands. But Sea-Gull don't really compete with other AliExpress brands. They're more kind of on par with like some of the larger brands because they have their own in-house movements and they work on a larger scale. But before you make up your mind whether you want to pick one up still or not, you probably want to know what it wears like on wrist, and also we'll go over the pros and cons and whether I recommend this or not. Because you already know there's things that I would change, but do the positives outweigh the negatives? Let's find out now. And here it is on my 7-inch wrist. So I think it looks really nice. Like all the little polished details just catching the light, and as I keep saying, that wave dial I do really like as well. I'm a fan of that. I also really like the Subdial as well. That just plays with the light nicely too. In terms of how it wears, got that nice thin case, and again, the curvature to those lugs, combined with those female len links. It does wear nicely on my 7-inch wrist. When it comes to the bracelet, I've managed to get a good fit, but again, there's no half links with this, so that might vary for you, so be aware of that. But as you've probably already guessed, the main issue I've got with this is that lume, or lack of. If you're going to bother putting lume on it, do it properly, especially with a watch named as it is. That should be one of the standout selling points of this watch, I think. And again, as I said before, add some lume on that second hand. Make a feature of it, make it look like a star. That being said though, I don't know whether I'd say that was a deal breaker, because I think it is a smart looking watch, and with it being a dressier style watch, I don't necessarily expect lume on it, which I know might sound a bit odd given what I've just said, but that's more to do with the name of it as opposed to the style of watch, if that makes sense. So, the question is, would I recommend this? I think overall, if you want a nice, interesting dress watch, then yeah, I would. Is it perfect? No. There's definitely some things they need to work on, but it's got the fundamentals of a good dress watch. It's got a pretty dial, it's got a nice thin case. Yeah, I've got that sapphire crystal on there that will protect it, so you've not got to worry about scratching it. Yeah, I've got that Sea-Gull in-house movement, albeit a fairly basic one. So if you are still interested in picking one up, don't forget to use that discount code HWR10 to get 10% off. But that's it for this one guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.